So today I want to talk to you a bit about being on a team. And Margarita covered the things that we need to do and how we'll interact, how we get the job done. But she also spoke at a different level to how you make a team with your clubs that you work with. She was really talking about how do you become a support to them? How do you connect with them? How do you develop that teamwork with them? And earlier in the session, right near the beginning, I believe it was, I want to say Henry, I'm not sure the name, but he talked about welcome to middle management. And that is exactly what area and division director roles are like. It's like entering the corporation, getting promoted to middle management, and you go, wow, I report down and I report up, and I've got information going through me from both directions as well. And that's what area and division director is like as well. So when I think of the workplace, I think some of the most effective departments are those where they're strong at teamwork. I suspect that you've had that experience as well. And I know when I went to work and I was a director of a department, I called my staff the dream team because everybody was diverse. Everybody was outstanding in their skill set and their experience and what they brought to the team. But each one of them came unselfishly to the table and presented their ideas, their perspectives, and shared it so that we would get the best outcome. So I want to focus on a few items that I gleaned from that dream team and working with that team, as well as the teamwork that I've experienced in Toastmasters. Because teamwork at Toastmasters is at every single level that you go to. Nobody gets anywhere in Toastmasters without a team. When we join, we belong to a club, which is a team. We give evaluation, we support. We go to area division levels, we have teams. There are co-participants in those roles. There are district team. At the district level, you have the club growth, you have program quality, you have district director. There's another team that supports you. And above that, you have RAs, or below that, you have RAs and international directors, a board of directors, an executive committee, an international president. All of those are part of a large team, but break down into smaller teams as well with different focuses. So teamwork is everywhere around us. And yet really good, effective teams can be the most challenging to achieve. So I want to talk about some things that I feel are important to consider and share a few stories that I've also experienced. So one of the things that I know for sure in building a team is that you have to have trust. Now, for me, that means that you can state your truth. You can say what is on your mind if you agree or disagree. You don't have to be argumentative, but you can put a different opinion on the table for discussion. So there's freedom to explore, and there's that relationship in that room or that team where a person can be vulnerable enough not to agree with everything, but say it in a way that we learn to give feedback in Toastmasters to say, you know, I'm curious about some other things. How about this? And being able to present that to your teams. So imagine if you went into your club as an area director and you have a question about something and they start and tell you how they think it should go. And as a team member with them, you say, I'm curious if you've explored other ways of doing this. Or I'm curious if you've researched a different way or you've talked to anyone else. And so being curious can create that trust rather than coming in with the answers and, I know how to fix you. One of the things that I found really interesting was when I was in district leadership and had an opportunity to interact with people that are clubs that needed work and that were struggling, and just being able to help them find the solution instead of me being prescriptive, asking them what they thought would work, how did they see it happening, and empowering them to find their way that they could try, and I could support them to try something they hadn't done before. And then not making it right or wrong, that wasn't my job, but to acknowledge them for trying something different, for being vulnerable. And over time, that built trust where people could bring different viewpoints, be validated, have successes of varying degrees, and then maybe even having to set another goal because maybe one step didn't get you to the end of the problem. So building trust, knowing that we also say and do, or do what we say we're going to do, so to build that trust in that relationship. The other thing that happens for me was in that relationship to build trust is to be very diligent in representing the 4 core values of Toastmasters, to ensure that at all times that you are looking at integrity. And integrity means for me that what I think and what I say and what I do are in alignment. So I have complete integrity. There's no incongruency. But what I think, what I say, and what I do are in alignment. So I bring integrity to that relationship. Then there's respect. Do we respect one another? So that means differences of opinion. That means different ways of doing things, but that there's room in that team for those differences. And I've learned that having diversity in a team and respecting that diversity brings a richness to the team, and sometimes answers that, or solutions that I would never have come up with. So let people bring their differences to that team. Then we look at service and excellence also in that team. So bring those values, those 4 core values, to that team to build respect, whichever team you're considering at this moment. I find that that's critical to build any team, is to have respect as the foundation. The second element that I think is critical in a team is being able to manage, or I'm not sure what verb we want to use, but I'll say manage conflict. I'm not sure if we manage conflict or some people want to solve it, some people want to get rid of it, but dealing with conflict. And this is really important in teams. I believe that teams break down if we don't face the conflict, if we don't have the discussions. One of the things that I learned to do a number of years ago, because I was conflict adverse. I didn't want to have an argument. I didn't want to have a disagreement. I was super uncomfortable doing that. And I actually went to school and got a certificate in conflict resolution, mediation, and negotiation, because I needed some skills for Toastmasters, and because I was on a team all the time. And one of the things that I learned was, first of all, to be curious, to ask people to explain it. I also learned that people tell stories. It's their interpretation of the situation. And so if I could pull back and start to be the detective and say, could you tell me what the facts are? And that was really difficult for people to do, because we get very invested in our interpretation. But going back to the facts, and then you could start to work through what had actually happened. To find what actually happened, what the facts were, and then to find some similarities, find some common ground that you might share, and from there to work to resolve the conflict. A situation I'll share with you, a team that I was asked to work with 2 years ago now. It was a district team, and they were having a lot of conflict. And so I started working with one of the members of the district team, and the RA was working with another member of the team. And there were a lot of stories about he said, she said, and they said, and it was very confusing as we worked through it. And so finally I said, tell me the facts. So we got down to the facts, and I said, is your officer delivering on their goals? Yes. I said, are they doing it the way you want it done? Because by then I started to see a pattern. No, they're not doing it the way I want it done. And I said, who told you that it has to be done a certain way? And they said, the person that mentors me told me it has to be done this way. And so when we unpacked all of this conflict that had been going on for like 9 months, we found out that their mentor had told them that they had to do it a certain way. And now they were pushing that on one of their officers, that they had to do it that same way. So when we finally unpacked it all, what we realized was what really mattered is that officer was finding out how to do the role, was doing it and delivering it, but they weren't doing it exactly the way that that other officer wanted it done, although they were delivering the results. And so I said to this person, do you expect everybody in life to do things just the way you do? Why do they have to do it the way you want it done if they're getting results? And that was the lesson in that conflict, was learning to let go of having to be right and dictating how it got done, rather than connecting back to the why we're doing it, which you've been talking about, and letting them get the results with their different set of skills, their different way of being, their different personality, and their different connections and team members that they had in their resources. So master the conflict in team. Step back, give space for the team members to bring who they are and what they have to contribute, and embrace the differences. As long as people are delivering on the team, they're part of the team. And don't get drawn into unnecessary conflict about having it your way, because there's many ways to get the results. The third element that I found really important in teamwork is to have commitment, to get commitment from your teammates. And what does commitment mean to you? Just think about that for a moment. And actually, maybe it would be something that you could put in the chat, because I'd be interested in hearing what you think, or how you relate to commitment. What does commitment mean to you? Okay, to fulfill promises, great. To be able to motivate and be motivated, integrity, you do what you were asked to do. Okay, perfect. So again, it's doing what you say you're going to do, and finding a way to bring what you have there. It's I don't think it takes a lot of words, but I think it's really important to work through your goals together so you understand them. So there's a general understanding. And there's lots of things in Toastmasters that need explanation. When we talk about building clubs, are the division governors being asked to go out and build clubs within their division? Are the area directors being asked to build clubs so that they can be a distinguished area? Who is looking after what and where are the resources? So all of those things help people make a strong commitment to the results that we want and to the team. I also think that the way we treat one another helps that commitment and the confidence that we can have in that team. So looking at that commitment. The fourth area that I think is critical is accountability. In a team, we need to have accountability. People, when we report up and down, if I'm waiting to hear from Lucas and I haven't heard from him, I'm now in jeopardy with my reporting line. Or if I'm waiting to hear from Daniel and there's silence, or perhaps Daniel's waiting to hear from me, it impacts our teams on both sides of us. And that can affect those teams. So create accountability. And I know a lot of you work in project management and have that background or work in work where you have deadlines. Put deadlines on things. When you have conversations, say, when do you need that by? Or here's when I can get that to you. Just bringing that accountability to a team is huge. The other part of accountability that I love is when I sometimes need somebody to be my accountability partner, like directly. So if I'm supposed to get back to, say, Daniel on something and I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, I might put something in my calendar, first of all, that would trigger me for my accountability. But I may say specifically to a person that I work with closely, could you remind me to get that to Daniel? So I might go specifically looking for an accountability partner on that specific project because I've got all these things going on. The other thing I do is create small working groups that help support my accountability. So for example, as region advisor, I've got a bunch of documents that have to be filed at World Headquarters. And so while I'm doing my paperwork, and Daniel's shaking his head because he probably has also. So what I do is I create little working groups. And though that helps me get my work done, but I have a team to do it and we can discuss it. I get a whole bunch of ideas for it, but I also have accountability in that because it's just not me worrying about the deadline now. Everybody on the team has got the deadline. So share your deadlines and your workload with the team around you so that you've got accountability, and call one another on it. Say, hey, Pat, don't forget that's due to World Headquarters tomorrow. And again, because there's that trust and that relationship that you can do that, there's space to do it. And the fifth item that's so important when you're building a team is to focus on results. One of the things that I've discovered that is when we have trust with one another on the team, when we're engaged and we deal with our conflict, when we commit to decisions, and when we hold one another accountable, that we are able to focus on results because we don't get drawn down into disagreements. We don't get drawn into side issues, that we deal with it as it comes up in the team, and it keeps us focused on the results. There was one of the, I was going to share a story and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to tell it or not. But one of the things that I learned in Toastmasters, particularly at my district level when I was a district director, is that people had all kinds of excuses to not do the results. And so we were in officer training like we are now, only we weren't online, we were one-on-one. And I had a division director who was responsible for the northern part of the province. Now it's very spread out, it's a long distance, sometimes it's plane rides to get to your different locations. And so in the middle of the training, he raised his hand and he said, well, we can't meet those goals because we've got challenges of distances. And I said, Charlie, you've lived in the North for 40 years. You've always known that those challenges exist. You do your work, you raised your family, you live there. Who better to solve that than you? None of that geography has changed since you raised your hand and said you want to be on the team and look after that division. So I'm going to give it back to you as a member of this team and say, that's your responsibility. How can we support you? We can't change the geography, but how can we support you in getting that done? So be careful that you or your teammates want to bring up excuses for not getting the results, and go back and focus on the results. The other thing that I find often is that we get drawn from our teams down holes or down rabbit holes. When we have a goal as a district, and we have major goals, and they're down into area director level as well, to keep those in the forefront at all times. And ask yourself, as an area director, a division director, as a district leader, when you get a demand on your time, or somebody wants you to go off and do something, ask yourself, is this going to lead to success at the end of the year? Not, oh boy, this is something I would love to do. It might be something that you can't do until next year, or maybe you do it in your spare time, but not in your area or division allocated time, because it's a distraction from the goals. Ask yourself, will this contribute to the end result this year of where we're headed? Or is it just a nice to do? And, you know, I so often, when I think of teamwork and building teams, I go back to the workplace. And when the CEO brought down orders and said, we will deliver this and we will get this done, that's what we actually focused on, that we got busy and got the work done. The other nice to do went to the side until the deliverables were done. And so that's what's key to it in your teamwork. So I mentioned trust. And I know that you'll build that this year, because I can see that there's collaboration, there's commitment, and I hope that you'll resolve the conflict, because the trust will make that happen. Or maybe there won't be any to have, which would be ideal. I think you should get a special award if there's none, because it might be the first time ever in district work. But making the commitment to be there and to get the job done. Make a commitment to your teams, whether it's your clubs, to get them the help that they need if they're looking for building membership. If you're looking for club coaches, make a commitment to find a good match for the club. Make a commitment to show up and do your job. Make a commitment to yourself to be the best that you can be, and to your own personal development. Right? Look at accountability. Hold yourself accountable. But also, if you know that you get slippery with that and you're not always real strict with yourself when it comes to the deadlines, find yourself an accountability partner and have them help you. Maybe you can team up when you are area directors and maybe you're in close proximity, or maybe you partner with your division director to hold you accountable. But build that accountability so you can deliver it. And then never lose track of the results that you're aiming for. When I was a fairly new Toastmaster, I was having a conversation with a senior Toastmaster who'd been around in my life for a long time. And he said to me, you know, Pat, when you're a leader and you are out walking and you turn around and nobody is following you, it's important to realize that you are actually not leading anyone. If nobody's following you, you're just out for a walk by yourself. And that reminds me of teams. So if you're leading and nobody's hanging out with you and nobody's around you, you're missing a team, because we can't lead without other people. Teamwork is all about relationships. It's about respect. It's about integrity. It's about service. It's about excellence. But it's also the important part of being in Toastmasters, to have that small team, that medium-sized team, that large team, to have that reporting up and reporting down in the organization, because it builds our skills to take into our real world with us. So I'll leave you with that. I know that we're close on time today, so just leave you those brief thoughts on your team and as you build it. And embrace teams, because they'll take you a long way and they'll give you a rich learning environment. And I look forward to my relationship with you all as part of your team.